Welcome, everyone.
Bait makers, bunker masters, and fans of mushroom booty all around the globe, this is the Wondercast.
Welcome to the evolution of grassroots content creation, partnered up with Gearbox and 2K to bring news, interviews, occasionally some fun speculation to the official Wonderlands channel. We have so much in store, the official Wonderlands channel, on the official Gearbox channel. We have so much in store for you all, especially with Wonderlands being right around the corner. We're so excited.
That is true. And on our inaugural show today, we are being joined by Moxsy in the opening segment where he will discuss with us his first impressions on playing the game, which then we'll have a chance to break down and discuss. As Tess and I, we've played it too.
Later in today's program, we'll have Ashley Lyons on the show to talk more about the lore and story that brought us to this point in Wonderlands and what players should expect when they finally get their chance to jump into the Wonderlands on March 25th.
But as always, we want to take a minute to thank all of our new listeners, which I guess because it's a new show would be all of you, on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, and those watching live right now on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, or later on the VOD on YouTube. If you are enjoying the program, we would love for you to give us a big ol' like, follow, or favorite so that you'll always be on the cutting edge of Wonderland's news.
So,
oh boy.
We're very proud to be members of the 2K Next Makers program. Working on Wonderlands, working on Borderlands, and many other amazing titles. And Moxsy is one of our teammates on that team. So let's welcome in Moxsy right now. Hi, Moxsy. How are you doing?
Hi, Moxsy.
Hey, I'm very well. Thanks for having me on the show.
It's so good to see you again. It's been, last time we saw you, I believe, was the final show and the New Year's show for the Wondercast, our predecessor show, which featured all things of previous titles in the series. Obviously, you know which ones. So it's so nice to have you back here, and especially to talk about exactly what we're going to be talking about today. But before we get into it, for those of you who might not know who Moxsy is, Moxsy, please take a few seconds, reintroduce yourself to the public.
Yo, guys, what is up? Moxsy. I make Borderlands content, have for about 2 years, and you can find me on Moxsy, Twitch, YouTube, and those are the places.
For those who might not be familiar with you, though, there is, of course, Moxsy in the series as well. How would you spell Moxsy in your particular case?
Moxsy.
Excellent.
Is how I came up with it.
Like down there somewhere, probably too, or...
Thought it was a really cool spelling when I was 13.
I mean, you weren't wrong. It's just that you had no idea where your career would take you when you're 13 years old. Like, you just wanted to hang out and have fun.
Names are hard, okay? And it's a great name. And I mean, I think Moxsy, our Moxsy, just enriches the name of Moxsy and is also enriched by the Moxsy that's in the Borderlands. She's amazing. So,
thanks.
It's just all good.
And so we were talking about the Next Makers program a little bit at the top of the show. What are some of your experiences with the Next Makers program as we roll on towards Wonderlands?
It's been an incredible experience, both like on the actual like Gearbox Borderlands side and having all those creators in one place to talk, but like outside of that space, getting to tune into like different talks. Like there was, I don't know if we could say, but like different speakers that have come into the Discord and like gotten to listen in and do town halls and while I'm working, get to listen in on like what's really happening in the creator space, which has been awesome.
Yeah, it's incredibly helpful. It's just a collaborative space and everybody's really open to helping each other. And that's been really awesome to be a part of and to see, I think, for all of us.
Yeah. They've helped provide a lot of opportunities, and it's really been nice to see the collaboration and connection that the Next Makers program has actually provided for us to be able to work more closely with Gearbox on a lot of different things, including being able to bring to all of you listening and watching today the footage that we're actually about to, and be able to talk about said footage. It's something that we really haven't seen too much of, and we are immensely appreciative for, and we look forward to being able to do it a lot more in the future and bring you that cutting edge content that you hopefully will come to associate and expect from us here at the Wondercast. So without further ado, because I could ramble on for hours and hours, I'm going to shut up now. Tess, if you would please show the people the glory that is Tiny Tina's Wonderlands.
So this is a little bit of an awesome video for you guys. You may have seen a little bit of it already. We're just going to sort of talk about what we're looking at. This is the Overworld. This was and is available on YouTube for you guys to watch in full. We're just going to show you a few snippets of it. The Overworld is one of the big changes that are coming to Wonderlands.
That Rainbow Bridge, oh my god!
This just looks so good.
It's so cool. So incredibly cool. So of what you guys were able to play so far during our preview, what did you guys think? What was your experience?
I absolutely loved it. It was, I mean, it's familiar enough that like it's Borderlands, it's Borderlands, but there's so many fresh things to explore, so many quality life improvements that are like genuinely add so much to the experience. And one of my favorite things was when I was playing it, I did all the missions that were available in our little preview, and the whole time I didn't realize I was doing side quests. Like it was, I don't know, each quest was so much fun and like led me to a different area on the map. It feels like exploration is going to be even more of a thing in this game, which I can't wait for.
Oh my god, definitely. Also, so everybody's seeing Jar right now. How cute is he?
Oh my god.
One of my favorite characters ever. And this whole entire area that we got to play through is like an optional area. It's not it's not even part of the main story. It's kind of like a side thing. And it's huge. It has its own side quest, its own little like mini optional main quest. Lots of really fun characters, lots of really fun enemies. If you want to check out the full video, I recommend you guys watch it on YouTube. But we really, really enjoyed playing it so very much.
Jar in this entire campaign, like mini campaign, I guess you could say, the little side quest that we get sent on was extraordinarily interesting. But while you love Jar, I have a bone to pick with Jar and perhaps Gearbox in general. And everybody who's played, who's in the chat right now, knows exactly what I'm referring to. So it might be featured in the 23 minutes of gameplay. I've had a chance to actually look through some of it in preparation for the show, but not all, also because I had the genuine pleasure of being able to play myself. At one point, they speak of somebody who just sits around and talks about politics all the time without lifting a finger, and all he does is wear scarves, even inside.
Yeah, I wonder.
I'm just saying.
I wonder who they were thinking of when they created him. I can't imagine. I honestly have no idea.
I could be your next like voice impression.
Oh my god! Yeah.
Oh my god.
After Typhon.
That's how I should come in, right? I should be a little goblin. Listen, first of all, the fact that means I'm probably a goblin, that's on point. I am extremely goblin-like. So Gearbox, you definitely got me there. But scarves inside. Come on, who else does that but me? Who else? I know. I'm watching.
I thought it was incredibly cool. When they said that at first, I kind of did like a double take, like, wait, oh my god.
It'll be confirmed if during the campaign it changes scarves.
Yes.
Multiple times.
Yes. Oh,
that will be the true test.
As you're passing through, every time you complete a quest that's related to it, you come back, and for some reason that particular character is just wearing a completely different colored scarf for some reason.
Because why not?
Why not? So
go on.
No, please, Tess.
I was just gonna ask. So, what were some of your favorite things? Did you find like a favorite type of weapon, or maybe which class did you play?
Well, I played both for many hours.
But like, which one was your favorite? If you had a favorite.
I really enjoyed the Graveborn class, and I got up to some awesome shenanigans with it because there's a skill that lets you deal more damage the more companions you have, and so I just went crazy with the companions and was just running around because you could throw Tediors and there's Tedior companions, and then you cast spells and there's spell companions, and it was so much fun. My favorite weapon type, was by far and away the crossbow attachment ones. They felt really, really, really good.
Yes.
And they come in all sorts of sizes, from like bolts to saw blades, and they can have stickies. I had one that was like kind of a, forget, it's kind of what Jacob's was, but it's different name in this game. But it was a blue pistol.
Yeah.
Like black powder, I think.
Black powder.
Maybe.
Black
Yeah.
powder
I think you're right.
It was
I
just-
paid
it-
attention to the SMGs too much.
It was just
What
a blue.
surprise.
I got a blue pistol, non-unique, but it only had one projectile in it, and it did so much damage. It was a crossbow, like a big crossbow pistol. Shoot it, reload, and it was like carried me for like 4 or 5 levels. It was really cool.
I'm a little mad that I did not find one of those. I would have liked that. It's
Yeah.
nice to have instead of the golden gun, it's the golden crossbow.
Yeah, I realized very quickly that the way crossbows shoot just feel really, really good to me. I like that style of weapon, and I just really enjoyed using those. And of course, SMGs. I found a few different SMGs that were just awesome. But there's so many cool weapons, and there's some really good melee weapons. How did the melee combat feel to you guys?
Oh boy. All right. So with melee, it's very clear that a lot of care was taken to actually develop melee as its own separate entity from just bayonets on a gun. And this is something I think a lot of us have kind of wanted and waited for since Borderlands 2, when we had things like the rapier and other guns that had bayonets on them, that people wanted more in-depth combat systems based around melee attacks, especially when you have somebody like Zero who was supposed to specialize in that. And, you know, to his credit, he had a sword, but it wasn't really customizable. Now you have axes. Now you have maces. Now you have hammers, and they all have unique and individual stats to them. They all have an individual and unique feel to them. And some of them can even combo appropriately. Moxsy, how did you feel about it?
I really enjoyed the melee. It's very like the feedback of like pulling out the weapon and hitting an enemy, and you can kind of see them getting like stunned by it a little bit, and you can feel like the feedback. Everything was very, very satisfying, and like it felt weighty. I really enjoyed that. I found myself like kind of like I'd start shooting at an enemy, and then I'd run out of ammo, and instead of like reloading, I would just run and bonk them with my like giant mace instead, which was a very fun feeling. And the like little built-in lunging that you can do with them was cool as well. And you get rewarded if you use your melee. Like most of them have a passive on them or a hilt mod that's going to like you hit someone with it, and then all of a sudden now you got more cooldown for your action skill to pop that again.
I was able to find on a Graveborn a mace that restored health on hit. And for Graveborn, I mean, Moxsy, we can talk about it. Tess, I'm sure you can jump in right here too. How important is keeping your health up when you're playing a Graveborn?
Uber important.
Yeah. Yeah. I will admit I had a hard time playing the Graveborn. There was a challenge, but like it was a cool challenge, so I really enjoyed that kind of experience. I had to be sort of just a lot more careful, really pay attention to my health. I'm sure there's ways to mitigate that. I feel like there's going to be so much potential for building for your playstyle. There's so many classes, and you'll eventually be able to combine them. I feel like we're just scratching the surface so far, so I can like see the potential. But yeah, health a little hard to keep up as a Graveborn, at least in this preview. But it was a good challenge for sure.
One of the secrets I discovered, or rather I should say, one of the secrets my wife discovered, Brofish had a chance to play with me as well, is while you're playing with Graveborn, you would use your action skill to slam the ground, and of course you take your 50% health penalty for doing so. But right afterwards, what's nice is they have an ability where if you use a spell, they will regenerate a portion of their health back. So she's like, what are you doing? You're playing wrong. All you have to do is use your action skill and then cast the spell real quick. I was like, oh, this feels so much better now. Okay, I get this. I was like, so, I mean, well, of course, Brofish is helping me discover things about this game that I just am too slow to pick up on my own.
Yeah, timing is important, I think, in this game. Timing of your action skill, timing of your spells as well, depending on what kind of spell you have. Is very useful and very important.
The Reaper of Bones action skill I found on I kind of was like struggling with it, and then I realized that like during it you're constantly losing health, but you also deal dark magic damage on everything and get more efficiency, and it's a 50-second cooldown. So if you use it and then you just lose all your health and then you have to wait 50 seconds to use it again, it doesn't feel that great. But if you can get like good damage and good leech on like your weapons, or get some AoE weapons, so you start hitting lots of enemies, then you can stay in it for like minutes while you're invincible because you can't die in it. And then there's a thing where after it's done, you come back with 20% health, which was tough because you come out 20% health and then someone comes and hits you and then you're dead. But there's like 3 seconds where you're very low health, and during that time you can also lifesteal. So I found like progressively learning and getting better with Reaper of Bones helped me out a ton.
Very, very cool.
Moxsy's already breaking the game. Who could have foreseen such a thing?
Never. Okay, so what we talked a little bit about how the crossbows have felt and how like SMGs felt for me. I love that it's obviously it's very reminiscent gunplay or crossbow play of sort of experiences in Borderlands 3, but the controls overall just feel really good. Like, how did everything feel to you guys? Gunplay and melee and movement and everything.
Gunplay felt very clean. It feels like, I mean, Borderlands 3 had phenomenal gunplay. It's like Borderlands 3 gunplay, but with more fun things to mess around with, because now we've got added attachments and new elements, and everything is doing dots, damage over time effects, which felt really good. That was one of the things that I noticed immediately, was everything does the damage over time, and those were felt impactful, which I loved. The spells were probably my favorite addition, just because they come in all shapes and sizes, and I'd find myself picking up a spell that like had like one little thing different about it than the one I was using, and all of a sudden it was doing something completely different.
It's nice to see how spells in general have evolved since Tiny Tina's Assault on Dragon's Keep, because originally they were essentially an offshoot of grenades that had minimal spell effects to it, but they were super cool. And it was something that we never really got to revisit in the sequel. However, at the same time, I don't think it's something that it was clear Gearbox wanted to give up on. And now they've kind of taken that entire idea, that concept, and expanded on it in amazing ways. There's lightning spells. There was a fireball spell that I got at one point. I think Brofish picked up Meteor and she lost her mind. Yeah, well, like she straight up got Meteor and was like, okay, this absolutely destroys everything in its path. This is a great spell.
That's so cool. Oh my God. I'm so curious to see, as a D&D player, right? I know that there is potential to have all kinds of crazy magic in a fantasy world, right? You could have like poison spells. You could have lightning spells, of course, fire, cold, all that stuff. We know the Berserker is going to do some cool frost damage. I'm just so curious to see, like we saw a lot, I think, in this little preview, but I'm so curious to see all of the different spells and different effects and the visuals of all of that and the audio of all of that too. It's going to be good.
Which actually leads me to a question that I wanted to ask. We've talked about melee. We have talked about the new crossbows, and we have talked now about spells, but there still is a core gameplay element that I'm sure people are going to be asking about. How did the weapons overall feel? Because we can talk all day about all the new stuff, but what's really going to keep a lot of the diehard folks coming back is knowing what they are doing to make sure that actual gunplay stays competitive alongside spell usage and melee usage. So with that question in mind, Tess, how did you feel as a submachine gun expert picking up that submachine gun for the first time and using it in Wonderlands?
It felt great. I'm very, I don't know, I'm very snobby when it comes to gunplay.
That's why I wanted to ask you.
Yeah, I'm very particular. Okay, I have played like every single shooter in existence. No, not really, but I played a lot of shooters, especially over the last, I want to say, 5 years. I've been streaming for about 7 years, almost 8 in May. God, a really long time. And when I first started, I absolutely did not even know how to like shoot straight or aim. And I remember when I was first playing Borderlands 2, I literally would just be so happy if I shot something and hit it and killed it. It was just insane to me. Now, almost 8 years later, it's a different world. I've played so many different things, and there's very few games that I think sort of measure up to my standards. And Borderlands 3 absolutely blew all of the previous games that I loved out of the water in terms of gunplay. And I think Wonderlands, is like another level of that. It feels just as good, if not better, because you have cool new things to play with. You've got things like the crossbows, and the SMGs feel familiar, but there's a wide variety of them, and they just, I don't know, they feel good. They feel right. They're like very well tuned and precise, and it's great. So for the gunplay snobs among us, chef's kiss.
Moxsy, how do you feel?
I really enjoyed the gunplay. I thought it was great. I loved the movement. Like Borderlands 3 improved on movement so much, and being able to get that same movement with your guns and spells and melee now all coming together felt really good. The one thing that I noticed was like, I think regardless of what character you're playing, whether you want to play like a gun character or a spell character, a melee character, you're going to want to be using kind of everything, because they all kind of flow and complement each other. So like even when I was like just trying to do spell stuff, like I would be doing spells and then I'd be getting buffs on my guns, and then I'd want to be shooting, and kind of tying them all together felt really, really good. And nice little like flows and synergies between your different equipment.
So I'm going to ask you, Moxsy, now the most important question I think that I can actually ask you. So no pressure. In your honest opinion, does Wonderlands, from what you have experienced thus far, feel like it is iterative on previous entries in sister series, or does it feel more like it's actual standalone, having learned the lessons from, but taking on its own appearance to create this new vision of a new series of gameplay?
That's a good question. I think, and we'll see how it like goes going forward. I'd be very interested to see if the next like Borderlands game takes some of these things from Wonderlands and puts them in, because they're great additions. It feels new, like spells feel new, melee feels new, and the way that the game plays, like Borderlands players coming from Borderlands 3, it's gonna feel fresh, which is exciting. I think it's more on the newer side, but it's still like it's Borderlands still. Like it's got the character elements that you like. It's got the funny quips and like crude jokes sometimes and all those things. I really, really enjoyed it. And it learned so many things from Borderlands 3, which the like feedback was heard, which is awesome.
It takes all the right lessons.
That's so cool. It's so cool to see Gearbox continue to kind of iterate and improve on every new like game adventure. And for sure with this one, I love the new like level design and the art style that they've chosen. And I mean, just the fact that it's fantasy makes it a whole different experience. But then things like the overworld and things like character creation and spells, and it's just, I'm so excited. This particular level that we played was so beautiful. It was snowy, and there were like cool goblin crystals that were in all of these caves when we were running around. And the goblins were adorable. I'm sorry, but goblins are like the cutest things ever in the world. It never occurred to me to think of goblins as so cute when I played D&D. In D&D, they're kind of like, I don't know. They're a little bit scary and a little bit fearsome. But I actually play in a role play show where we have a goblin in our party, and he's adorable. And so seeing the goblins in this particular little sort of story that we got to play through was just Amazing. We got to liberate them. It was so nice. What did you think of the boss that we fought at the end of this little section of gameplay?
The dragon thing?
Yeah.
I thought it was a very cool fight. It's funny because there's two enemies before that, and I died to those enemies twice before I fought the dragon, the steel metal god dragon. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm good. Like these defenders. And then I saw like what's obviously like a drop down to a boss. And I was like, uh-oh.
You hit that slide and you were like, oh, okay, I know where this is going.
Yeah, where this is going. It was a fun boss fight. The bosses feel they had some mechanics and things to their attacks, and it felt like harder. Like I was the difficulty felt a little bit more difficult than like my first time playing Borderlands 3, more akin to like a Borderlands 2. I liked.
Very cool.
So Tess, I just realized, we've been talking so much about, and talking about that dragon too. You can see that there's been a lot of care put into updating all of the effects in the game. Guns, they've taken the projectiles, they look more vibrant, they look more bright. Spells are very clearly spells. You know what's going on around you. And it would be lovely if we had somebody here who maybe could talk a little bit more informed about such a thing, wouldn't it?
We actually do.
Oh, right. Yes, we do.
We'd like to welcome the absolutely amazing and awesome Ashley Lyons, the lead special effects artist at Gearbox Software. Thank you so much for joining us, Ash. We super appreciate you coming on today for our very first episode of the Wondercast.
Oh, thanks for inviting me. I feel honored to be here.
It's our genuine pleasure and honor. Thank you for so much, because we know in the lead up to Street Date, it's going to get even more and more hectic. So taking the time out of your extraordinarily busy schedule, we always appreciate you coming and having a wonderful chat with us. So without further ado,
thank you.
The franchise has always had a very distinct visual art style, right? In contrast to pretty much every other game out there. And I think of the visual effects because they're so vibrant and so colorful. The lighting, the rich neon textures, even using certain guns when I was playing Wonderlands, and the spells, the lightning, it's such a clear, vibrant blue. It almost looks like the teal over Moxsy's shoulder right now. What is the design process for creating all these impactful visual moments?
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into it. And and I'd like to say that I have an extremely awesome and ridiculously talented effects team here at Gearbox. So, I mean, all credit goes to them for just being able to create the wonderful stuff that you all see in the game. But as far as what goes into all that is going into Wonderland. So we had a visual style guide for all of the spells, and we pretty much kept that as that was like our Bible, essentially. So we had that from concept, and we would refer back to that every once in a while. It's like, okay, we have this spell here. How should this look? What's the motion on this thing? What's the color? And basically basing off of that and evolving from that whole style guide look, we were able to just build everything that we needed. And essentially going back to kind of all the effects and kind of how they would look and what colors, we kind of went with the whole kind of like how Marvel in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, like all of their magic and all of the effects that they have, they all have like a certain color, if that makes sense. Like all the cosmic stuff is like, gold, and everything, all the chaos magic is red. So taking that idea and running with it into Wonderlands, you'll get the same effect. Like for every, all of the like the red magic is kind of like that chaos magic. All of the like the purple and black magic. That's like the void, and we get like the the teleports and things like that are always a specific color. So when you do see a color, when you do see an effect happen, you know exactly what's going to happen. So we wanted to keep that visual language going so the player can instinctually just know what's going on without having to actually think about, oh man, I'm getting shot with shock because I'm getting hit with blue, so I know I'm getting shocked. So I need to adjust my play style to, fight shock, or I need to use fire, incendiary, and all that stuff.
It's a design where you're receiving information. Your eyes see it, your brain processes it, and you respond accordingly. But you don't even realize at a certain point, based on your development scheme, that you are responding accordingly. But your brain did.
Yeah,
and that's the key to a really good visual style. No, I had a feeling that's where you're going to go with it. I apologize that I jumped on it, but it's so exciting to actually hear that's the vision to convey information that you don't even realize you're getting while reacting to it at the same time. That's so cool.
Yeah, and it's just, that's kind of like what all goes through our heads on the effects team during while we're playing the game and making all these effects. We're thinking to ourselves, okay, how will I convey what is happening without it being too muddy? Like, I need to have this really clear, precise vision of what this effect needs to do, and at the same time, it needs to look good. It needs to be fun to play. So you have to have this nice balance of cool thing happening versus making it clear and precise and readable.
That's a lot for an artist to wrap their head around. And it really, I feel like that's a lot, just as somebody who's done a little bit of graphic design. That is a lot to think about. And it really, you guys do it so well, just in that little bit of story that we got to play. It's just instinctive. Like you recognize the kinds of damage, and you recognize, certain guns and certain things and certain effects. And it's really, really cool. Were you excited, and was it like super different to work on a whole new frontier of combat gear for Wonderlands? Because it's fantasy stuff, right? So it's like a different style, different weapons, different effects and things like that.
It was, because going off of Borderlands 3, everything is, you have that Borderlands 3 style. It's more, it's funny because I want to say it's more based in reality, even though it's not, but it's more like, I guess we'll call it like super reality based. But going into Wonderlands, we have this fantasy element now that, everyone on the effects team is like, well, we've never done fantasy effects before. This is new for us. So how are we going to switch into fantasy mindset, but still keeping in that Borderlands universe? And I think the team walked that tightrope, walked that line very well, to where we can lean heavily into this fantasy world of dragons and elves and mushrooms with butts, but still keep the feeling of, we've got guns that are shooting bullets at mushrooms with butts.
And still make it seem realistic to a certain extent, right? Because you one of the things I think that goes into game design is, no matter how fantastical a concept can possibly get, even if it's in the mind of somebody who loves explosions and craziness like Tina, it still has to be grounded in some semblance of realism. Otherwise, your brain shuts off. Right?
Yeah.
Because it's fake. So I guess it's kind of like Uncanny Valley. You have to hit that peak up here before you hit the valley again, or you just go. And this is where I think Wonderlands is. You just go so crazy that it's not real, but it's real to you. Damn it! Like
right.
That.
And that was big. Like our art director was very big on keeping it still based in reality, because he wanted to have everything to know that Tina was the dragon, or not the dragon master, the
Bunker Master,
the Overlord, Dungeon Master. Sorry, my brain's all over the place. But so Tina's in control. This is all happening in her mind. So we think we needed to still keep that sense of fantasy, but realistic fantasy, reality-based fantasy.
And so once your team was assembled and you were informed of all this, how did they react to the challenge? Because like you said, you have to switch your brain. Now you're going from kind of this gritty, dark, realistic dystopian nightmare scenario to a completely different fantasy setting. How did they react when they found out that this was the new challenge to create these assets for this new endeavor?
Oh, I think the team had a lot of fun with it. I mean, it's one of the things I love about working with the effects team is we can go crazy. Like we have this sense of like we can throw everything at the wall, see what sticks, and then pull back. So this is one of the reasons why I love coming to work every day, especially when you're working with my team, because we can go in and we'll get a task and it's like, hey, we need an explosion. Okay, anybody can make an explosion, but it's like, okay, we need to add this elemental shock explosion. So it's like, okay, yeah, well, you can throw some blue stuff in there, you can have some electricity. That's boring. What can we really do to make this explosion and hype it up and just go crazy with it? And then we'll make something extremely like just crazy, just stupid awesome. And then it's like, okay, let's bring it back from an 11 to like a 9, maybe bring it back to a 7, because the cool thing looked awesome, but then there was maybe too much. So, we have to kind of, like I said, we got to bring it back just so there's not too much on screen, but have it still look cool, like I was mentioning earlier. And I think like I said, the team, we were able to, like I said, walk that line and keep things, fun, readable, and like I said, still look good. But I think, like I said, I think the team had a great time working just in a new fantasy element because it was all new. We were forging new territory. We were looking at new stuff.
Yeah.
Did you have a favorite new spell or weapon type that you like personally enjoyed working on, or liked the visual effects, or really proud of the visual effects of that specific one?
Yes. I kind of had two. So there were two that I got to like babysit, and two effects that I got to babysit and call my own. And it was the portal effect that you'll see within the game, and the really like the cool teleport effect. So like when enemies teleport in, when when the main character, like when you're vault hunter, not called vault hunters, like the main character will portal and things like that. So those were the two effects that I did get to work on it and create, that I was actually really proud of, just because I built those from the ground up, and just watching them evolve over time, and going through like months of saying, oh, this is terrible. I'm like, why am I even here? Like, I can't do this, to the level of, all right, this is awesome. I love it. I'm actually, having a good time making this, and I like the way it turned out. But I think those two effects were my favorite.
The portal effects felt like they were really standing on the shoulders of, and I'm going back in ancient history, I guess, here, if we're talking about 3-4 years back. Randy did a tech demo of Unreal 4, where he showcased what looked like a metallic orb as it was kind of like moving, and waves were in it and things like that. And in previous iterations there, that was kind of built upon, where you could see a giant sphere in the middle of a town, and you could see the undulations and the waves being formed in that. And the way the portal looks now felt like you kind of stood on the shoulders of that and took it and made it its own thing. I don't know if I'm reading that correctly, but is that kind of what you did with that?
Kind of. So that original portal was created, I believe, by and one of our artists, one of our effects artists named Gabe. If I'm thinking of the same one that you are. So that was that portal effect. So that was for something else, and this new portal effect had to be more fantasy based, because it was the main portal, and the idea behind it was, when you see this portal, this means somebody is teleporting. And there actually ended up being two types of portals in the game. One is anything that like Tina's moving around, and the actual magic within the Wonderland's universe, if that makes sense. So there's like the Tina portal, and then there's the Wonderland's universe portal, and they had to look similar but still be distinctly different. So you still knew that it's like, oh, there's a portal, something's happening, but oh, okay, there's a portal, Tina made that happen. So that's kind of where the evolution came from, and that whole kind of how that basically how that formed.
Yep.
Very, very cool. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, you were talking earlier about how you dialed things up to 11 when you were designing a lot of the visual effects, and then you would rein it in to a 9 and then a 7 and maybe finally rest on a 6. And in my head, I lost my mind a little bit because I was thinking, oh, so you all just decided to just crank it up to 11 and that's where you're going to go. And so, but what I was going to then expand upon a little bit and kind of ask you is, are there layers then, right? Because you have different classes of weapons. You have common, uncommon, rare, legend. You have all of these different types. So when you're designing these effects, do you look at a certain effect and go, okay, maybe that one, that's an 11. We should reserve it for this particular class of weaponry. Or this one we can take as a 9, maybe run it back to a 6 or 7 and make it uncommon, and then dial it back up to a 9 and put that on a rare or an epic weapon or spell?
That's actually a pretty good question. And I want to kind of go back to when I said, like, we'll bring it back to like a 6 or 7. I almost feel like it's like I don't want to convey that it's like we're lessening the effect.
Sure.
To where it's like at a lower level, it's more of just visually bringing it back to where in order to keep this, like, and still keep the same effect, just not have as much on screen at a time. So when thinking of bringing something down to like certain levels, it is kind of the same way with if you want to do different tiers, because we do think about tiers as far as visual tiers. So like if you want to have a spell that's more of a faster spell, you don't want to have a bunch of stuff staying on screen, because if you're just firing off boom, 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 you don't want to have the particles sitting around for 30, 40 seconds, you want to have them, play, die, and clean up quickly, because they're firing right after the other, versus if you just throw a spell, boom, it hits, and it's you want to have this very longer lasting, maybe like a 30-second after effect of the particles, because the spell might have a longer cooldown. So you throw it, boom, it hits, things kind of sit around. By the time everything's done, you can throw it again, and so you don't have like the spell, and you don't this visual vomit of just particles everywhere. So I guess that's kind of what I mean by bringing things back from like an 11 to like a 7, 8, 9, and all that stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
It's super nice to have that. I know a lot of players that I mean, it's easy to be overwhelmed, right? If there's just so many things happening at once, especially if you play co-op. We weren't really able to play co-op during our preview, but co-op is like one of the favorite things of these franchises, right? And I know I'm super looking forward to playing with my teammates, playing with viewers. I know everybody's really excited to play together. And so having everybody doing like a variety of cool spells and cool visual effects, but still being able to understand what's happening, it's just amazing. Like if I throw down a pool of poison, somebody else is going to throw down some maybe some lightning or something, and we're going to be able to tell the difference. We're going to be able to react. If one of us is, not resistant to those things, it's just very cool. Like it's very cool that was thought about, because I think that was one of the comments that was made in the Next Makers Discord a lot as feedback, and it's really cool to see that sort of listened to. We appreciate it so much, because I mean it comes from the community. The community said that, and you guys are so amazing at really paying attention to what the community is asking for and what would truly benefit them, and we just appreciate it so much when you guys do that, which you do a ton.
Thank you.
I noticed that particularly on the huge meteor spell. It's like you're summoning a huge meteor out of the air. It's coming down. There's crazy like explosions, and like you can almost feel the enemy's fear as this meteor is falling down on top of them. But at the same time, like you have that visual aspect, but at the same time, it's not like I couldn't find any enemies for like 3 minutes after using it. Like it happens, it's cool, and you're right back into it.
Yeah, and also I would like to give a shout out to Gabe, because he is the one that made that meteor spell. He's one of our effects artists, great dude. And everyone loves that meteor, so shout out to him for making a great effect.
That's so cool. Thank
Is
you.
there
Oh, good.
is there a particular visual aspect that gets you excited when you see it?
Yeah, and actually, the name is I feel bad because the name just totally just blanked on me, but it's the element, the red element that we have now, and like I
So
said, I feel
good.
bad because I totally just farted on the name.
Dark magic?
Yeah, dark magic. There you go. Thank you so much. So I got a lot going on nowadays, but yeah. So that I definitely love the look of the dark magic because it's something that we had to create for Wonderlands. It's not something that it's not a holdover like from the other Borderland games like we have like like Incendiary and Shock and Cryo and all that. Now that we have this new element that we were able to just make from scratch and form within the team itself. So seeing that, I can see it and go, yes, that is brand new. We had to come up with that and come up with the look and the feel and the style for all that. So that is one that I do appreciate.
The visual effect of the leech, like when you do a slam or hit a bunch of enemies with dark magic, and then it's almost like you're siphoning their health from like all around you, is so cool.
Yeah,
thank you.
Easily my favorite element. Yeah,
absolutely.
So cool. Thank you so much, Ash, for joining us. We appreciate it so much. And Moxsy as well. Thank you so much for answering our questions, for creating these incredible, beautiful effects. You're amazing to do that. Thank you. Thank you to all of you guys for joining us. If you're enjoying the show as much as we love doing it, please make sure to subscribe on YouTube. Make sure you're following the Gearbox official channel, which we're so honored to be on Twitch. And make sure you stay tuned to iTunes, SoundCloud, TuneIn, YouTube Music, all of those. Hopefully we'll be appearing there in the future. Thank you so much, you guys. And don't forget, the Tiny Tina's Wonderlands has their very own TikTok also. So you should make sure to follow them there. Tiny Tina's Wonderlands on TikTok. You just need to search for it and you'll find it. And there's some really great stuff there. Be sure to check that out. March is a very busy month, so expect to hear more from us as Wonderlands gets closer. Our next show will feature some favorite friends of the show. Greg Miller of Kinda Funny Games is coming back. We'll have some special surprises for you guys. Thank you so much again to all of our watchers, all of our listeners. Huge thank you to Ash for joining us today. We really appreciate it so much. You answered so many questions, and
thank you so much.
Thank you. This game is eye candy, just like all the previous games in the other franchise, and it's just amazing. And Moxsy, thank you so much as always. You're the best. We really appreciate you stopping by.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Can I say one thing? I want to.
Sure.
Can I say hi to somebody?
Of course.
Absolutely.
Just want to say hi to Mental Mars. I see him in the chat. One of my Twitter buddies from back in the Battleborn days.
Oh wow, that's so cool.
Oh yeah.
I loved that game. It's so awesome that we're live because we get to do stuff like that, interact.
Yeah.
So thank you. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So with all of that in mind, again, thank you so much to everybody, to our guests, Tess, for joining us here on the inaugural show of the Wondercast. We appreciate all of you, and we look forward to what's to come. Thank you also to 2K, Gearbox, and the Next Makers team for trusting us to be your information and entertainment source for all things Wonderlands. We're going to leave you, as we will at the end of every show, with a magic moment. This week's magic moment, of course, being one from our very own Tiny Tina's TikTok. So get out there and make your own fate.
Call to come up. I was on the field with the runners. Was on the winning team. We was getting cream, skimming on the surface with the facial schemes. Kill the scene.